Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're tackling something that can be a real headache for Spanish learners. Definite articles.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically how they work with time expressions and quantities.
Yeah, it's
We're using this awesome Spanish grammar guide that you gave me as our main source.
Sounds good.
So get ready to unlock some serious fluency, because we're about to discover how even something as basic as what time is it has a definite article in Spanish.
Right.
Which, I mean, in English, we just don't do that.
Exactly. It's one of those things that makes Spanish unique.
So let's jump right in. Can you kind of explain like the big picture? Like, why are definite articles such a big deal in Spanish?
Well, you see, in English, we only use the in
Yep.
specific situations, but in Spanish, it's way more common. Like, they use it for times, days, dates, even amounts.
Wow, so it's like woven into the fabric of the language almost?
Pretty much. And it's this, like, secret code that unlocks a deeper level of fluency.
Ooh, I like that. A secret code. All right, so let's crack this code. In English, we'd say, it's 9 o'clock. How does that work in Spanish?
Okay, so it's 9 o'clock becomes son las nueve.
Son las nueve. Okay, so that little las before nueve, that's the definite article.
Exactly. That little las makes all the difference.
So it's not just about the word they, it's like a totally different way of looking at nouns. Like in Spanish, 9 o'clock needs a definite article because it's a specific time.
You got it. It's a subtle but important difference in how the two languages think about things.
That's fascinating. It's like those tiny articles are carrying a ton of meaning. All right, so what about days of the week? Are there any surprises there?
Oh, definitely. Days of the week are where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm ready.
So let's say you're talking about this Sunday, like you're going to a party. You'd say in Spanish, el domingo voy a una fiesta.
El domingo voy a una fiesta. Okay, I see the el before domingo. So that means we're talking about a specific Sunday.
Exactly. But what if you wanted to say you have Spanish class every Wednesday?
Oh, good question. So in that case, it would be like a repeated action on Wednesdays.
You got it. So you would say, los miércoles tengo clases de español.
Okay, so los for repeated actions, el for a single specific day. Got it. So what about if you're just like asking what day it is in a normal conversation? Do you always use the article?
Nope, that's a great question. Context matters. When you're asking what day it is today or talking about yesterday, you actually drop the article.
Oh, interesting. So it'd be like, ¿Qué día es hoy? Lunes.
Exactly. And then for yesterday, ayer fue domingo, no el needed.
Okay, so sometimes you use it, sometimes you don't. It all comes down to how specific you're being.
You got it.
All right, I'm starting to see the pattern here.
Yeah.
So dates probably work the same way, right?
Pretty much. You use el before the date. Like if you have a big exam, you could say, me examino el 12 de junio.
Me examino el 12 de junio. Okay, that makes sense. But I bet there's an exception for this too.
You're good at this. Just like with days, if you're asking for the date or mentioning yesterday, no article needed.
Okay, so it'd be, ¿Qué día es hoy? 5 de marzo. And ayer fue 4 de marzo.
Exactly. Nice and simple.
I like it when things are simple.
Yeah.
Any other tricky things about dates that I should know?
Let me think. Yeah, actually, there's one more thing. In English, we often say both the day and the date. Like, the exam is on Thursday, June 20th. Spanish does this too, but with a twist. You only use one er, and it goes with the day of the week.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a good one to know. So it'd be, el examen es el jueves 20 de junio.
Exactly, just one el for the whole phrase.
All right, I'm definitely making a note of that one. Okay,
Yeah.
This is all making a lot more sense. Now, what about months? Do I need el or la before them?
This is where it gets easier. Months are super straightforward. They never use definite articles.
Oh, thank goodness.
So you can just say, mi cumpleaños es en octubre. No articles to worry about.
Phew, one less thing to remember. So we've covered specific times and dates, but what about parts of the day, like morning, afternoon, evening? Do those use definite articles too?
They do. And this is where we see la come into play. You use por la before these parts of the day.
Okay, so like, trabajo por la mañana y estudio por la tarde.
Perfect. That's exactly right. I work in the morning and study in the afternoon.
Awesome. So por la is our go-to for those general time periods. But knowing Spanish, I'm guessing there are some exceptions.
Of course. There are always exceptions. But they make sense. A mediodía means at noon, and de madrugada means at dawn.
I see. So noon and dawn get their own special phrases.
Exactly. And the guide gives us some examples. Voy a casa a mediodía. I go home at noon. And el camión de la basura pasa de madrugada. The garbage truck comes at dawn.
Okay, got it. So far, so good. But I have a feeling we're about to enter a whole new level of complexity with quantities and frequency.
Oh, you know it. That's where things can get really interesting. But don't worry, once you understand the logic, it all clicks into place.
All right, challenge accepted. Bring on the quantities and frequencies.
Okay, so let's dive into quantities and frequency. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's do it. This is where I usually get tripped up, so hopefully your expertise can help me out.
I think we can crack this code together. All right, so let's start with a simple example. Like, how would you say the price is 3 euros per kilogram in Spanish?
Okay, let me think. El precio es 3 euros por kilogramo. Is that right?
Close. But remember, in Spanish, the definite article often goes after the unit of measurement. So it would be, el precio es 3 euros el kilo.
Whoa, okay. That's different. It feels backward compared to English.
It does it first. But think about it this way. You're specifying which kilogram you're talking about, the kilogram that the price is referring to.
Ah, I see. It's like saying the kilogram in question.
Exactly. And this pattern is super important for understanding prices, shopping, all sorts of everyday stuff.
Okay, I'm definitely going to practice that one. So we've got specific amounts covered. But what about saying how often something happens? Like, I go to the gym twice a week.
For that we use a specific structure, cantidad o frecuencia plus period of time.
Okay, that sounds a little intimidating.
It's not so bad once you break it down. The example in the guide is perfect. Vamos al cine 2 veces al mes. We go to the movies twice a month.
Oh, okay, I see. So you say how many times, then al, then the time period, 2 veces al mes. That's not so hard.
See, you're a natural art. And the best part is you can use this with all kinds of time periods, days, weeks, months, even years.
Wow, that's awesome. I can already think of so many ways to use that. So like, if I wanted to say I run every other day, I could say corro cada 2 días.
Exactly. You're getting it.
This is really starting to make sense. All these little pieces are starting to fit together. But maybe we should take a step back and recap what we've learned so far about definite articles. It feels like we've covered a lot of ground.
Absolutely. We've gone over how Spanish uses definite articles with times, days, dates, parts of the day quantities, and now frequencies. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But I'm realizing just how crucial these little words are. If you want to speak Spanish, well, you've got to master these definite articles.
You got it. They're like little puzzle pieces that make up the whole picture of the language.
I love that analogy. Okay, so for our listener who's been hanging on every word, what are the key takeaways about definite articles? What's the big aha moment?
I think the most important thing to remember is that definite articles in Spanish just work differently than in English. They have their own logic and their own rules.
Right. It's not about translating word for word.
Exactly. It's about understanding the Spanish way of thinking and expressing ideas.
That makes sense. So what's one final thought you'd like to leave our listener with? Something to ponder as they continue learning Spanish.
Okay, here's a challenge. I want you to think about your daily routines or maybe some plans you have coming up and try to say them in Spanish using all the stuff we talked about today with definite articles, times, days, quantities, the whole shebang.
Ooh, I like that. It's a fun way to put all this new knowledge into practice. So to all our listeners out there, keep practicing and most importantly, have fun with it. You know, it's funny, I'm already starting to think about how I'll use el and la the next time I speak Spanish.
I bet that's how you know it's really sinking in.
It is. But for our listeners who maybe feel a bit overwhelmed, like, it's a lot to take in any advice for them.
Totally. First of all, remember, language learning, it takes time. It's not about being perfect right away.
So true.
It's about those little victories along the way, you know, like using a new grammar rule correctly in a real conversation.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about Spanish is there are so many different countries and cultures where it's spoken.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So as you get more comfortable with these definite articles, you'll start to notice all these regional differences in accents, which is really fun.
It's true. It's like you unlock a whole new world of communication.
I love that. And I think it's important to remember that making mistakes is part of the process.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like every time you mess up, it's actually a chance to learn something new.
Couldn't agree more. Embrace those mistakes. They're your teachers.
Well said. So to everyone listening out there, keep practicing and keep exploring the world of Spanish.
Yeah, and have fun with it. That's the most important part.
Exactly. This has been another awesome deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Hasta luego.